You have been lied to. Everything you believe about the pursuit of happiness is a sentimental hallucination designed to keep you compliant. You think happiness is a destination, a state of rest you are in. After enough labor, status, or enough consumption. You are wrong. From the perspective of evolutionary neuroscience and clinical psychology, the human brain was never designed for happiness. It was designed for survival. It is a prediction engine optimized for scarcity, paranoia, and the relentless pursuit of more. Your life is not a tragedy. It is an erroneous program running on 200,000-year-old hardware. You are trapped in a genetic cage, a biological vessel where dissatisfaction is not a boogit. Is the core feature. Evolution doesn't want you to be content. A content animal is a dead animal. It wants you anxious. It wants you scanning the horizon for threats. It wants you trapped in what I call the genetic scarcity simulation. This is the fundamental neurochemical script that keeps you running on a treadmill of desire, perpetually chasing a carrot that dissolves the moment you bite it. We live in a world of high-definition screens and low-resolution lives. We have outsourced our consciousness to algorithms. We have traded our psychic sovereignty for digital anesthesia. And while you sit there, scrolling through the curated voids of other people's lives, your mind is rotting from the inside out. This is psychic entropy, the natural state of the human mind when left to its own devices. Disorder, chaos, a slow, agonizing drift toward the abyss of meaninglessness. But there is a crack in the prison wall, a temporary suspension of the self-destructive eye. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi called it flow. I call it the only way to hack the substrate of your existence. This is not a self-help guide. This is a manual for a prison break. Part 1. The architecture of the cage. To understand flow, you must first understand why your default state is misery. For 99% of human history, existence was a high-stakes gamble against extinction. Your ancestors survived because they were hypervigilant. They didn't admire the sunset. They scanned it for predators. This negative bias is hardwired into your amygdala. In the modern world, where there are no tigers, your brain invents them. It turns an unread email into a death threat. It turns a lack of social validation into an evolutionary exile. We are victims of a mismatched neural lag. Our biology is Paleolithic, our institutions are medieval, and our technology is godlike. You are trying to run the software of the 21st century on a wetware system that has had a significant update since the This creates a friction, a heat that burns through your mental energy. Most people try to solve this friction through relaxation. They think the opposite of work is leisure. This is the first great lie of the social contract. When you sit on a couch and passively consume content, your mind does not rest. It collapses. Without a structured goal, the default mode network, DMN in your brain, takes over. This is the seat of the ego. It starts ruminating. It starts comparing. It starts judging. This is the entropidopamine paradox. You seek passive pleasure to escape your stress, but passive pleasure increases the disorder of your mind, leading to more stress, which requires more numbing. You are not resting. You are decomposing. Society wants you in this state. A person in psychic entropy is a perfect consumer. They are hungry, they are insecure, and they are easily manipulated. They are slaves to the social mimicry paralysis, a state where you no longer know what you want, only what you are told to want by the algorithmic mirror. Flow is the destruction of that mirror. Part 2. The autotelic rebirth. Csikszentmihalyi's research was brutal in its simplicity. He used experience sampling methods, beeping people at random intervals to ask what they were doing and how they felt. The data was a slap in the face to modern culture. People were at their most miserable when they were free. They were at their most fulfilled when they were stretched to their limits, working toward a difficult goal, losing track of time and self. Flow is not joy. Joy is a retrospective emotion. Flow is a state of total integration. It is the moment where the self, that nagging, whining, insecure, internal narrator finally shuts up. We call this Transient Hypofrontality, the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for self-consciousness and complex thought, temporarily powers down. You stop thinking you are doing. You become the doing. But why is this so hard to achieve? Because you are suffering from neuropsychosclerosis. Your habits have calcified. Your brain has created efficient paths of least resistance. You choose the easy task over the challenging one because your biology wants to conserve energy. But energy conservation in the mind leads to atrophy. To enter flow, you must balance on the razor's edge between boredom and anxiety. This is the challenge-skill ratio. If the task is too easy, you drift into boredom entropy. If the task is too hard, you spike into anxiety, the genetic cage. Flow is the narrow corridor in between. It is the optimal frustration. Think of the animal instinct versus the social contract. The animal wants to eat, sleep, and mate. The social contract wants you to produce, consume, and obey. Neither wants you to be in flow. Flow is a rebellion against both. It is an autotelic experience from the Greek auto-self. And telos goal. The activity is its own reward. You do it not for the paycheck, not for the likes, but for the sheer, crystalline perfection of the process. In flow, you are no longer a victim of the hedonic scarcity simulation. You have found a way to generate value from the inside out. You have hacked the neurochemical reward system. Part 3. The mechanics of information. What is the mind? It is a processing unit for information. In every waking second, thousands of bits of information hit your senses. Your attention is the filter. It is the most valuable resource you possess, more valuable than money, more valuable than time. Because what you attend to becomes your reality. If your attention is fragmented, your life is fragmented. If your attention is hijacked by the modern screen, your soul is being harvested. Flow is the ultimate act of attention consolidation. It is the focusing of all psychic energy onto a single point of impact. When this happens, the complexity of the mind increases. Complexity is not the same as complication. Complication is disorder. Complexity is the integration of diverse parts into a higher unity. This is the goal of human evolution, not happiness, but the expansion of complexity. A person who masters flow becomes more different, more unique, more skilled, yet more integrated with the world around them. The modern world is an entropy engine. It seeks to break your attention into tiny, monetizable shards. Every notification is a micro-corrosion of your ability to reach flow. You are being conditioned to distraction. You are losing the ability to engage with deep time. The ancient Stoics understood this. Marcus Aurelius didn't have a smartphone, but he had the same unruly brain. He knew that the only thing we control is our proheresis, our volitional faculty, our ability to choose where we place our focus. If you cannot control your attention, you are a ghost in your own life. You are a passenger in a vehicle driven by a blind, hungry god called the algorithm. To break out, we need to stop looking for hacks and start implementing protocols. We need to move from the soft realm of mindset to the hard realm of engineering. Part 4. The cortical enslavement loop. Before we move to the solution, we must name the enemy. Most of you are trapped in what I call the cortical enslavement loop. This is a neurophilosophical trap where your higher brain functions, reason, planning, aspiration are hijacked by your lower brain functions. Fear, lust, status seeking to serve the interests of an external system. The system, the market, the social hierarchy, the digital panopticon doesn't want you to find flow in your work. It wants you to find utility. It wants you to be a predictable node in a network. When you feel that hollow ache at 3 a.m., that sense that you are performing a role in a play you didn't write, that is the loop tightening. Your brain is telling you that you are wasting your psychic capital. You are spending your finite attention on things that do not increase your complexity. You are bunging, corroded by convenience. Everything that makes life easier makes the entry into flow harder. Flow requires friction. It requires a body-mind synergy that is being eroded by our sedentary, screen-mediated lives. We have cognitive ease, but we have existential rot. The only way out is to rewrite the bottom-level protocols of your existence. You cannot think your way out of a biological prison. You have to act your way out. You have to re-engineer the hardware, rewrite the software, and force a system reboot. Part 5. The biological tax. Your body is not a temple. It is a high-maintenance thermal engine. If you ignore the hardware, the software of flow will never execute. Most of you are operating on emergency power. You are overcaffeinated, underslept, and metabolically broken. Your prefrontal cortex's seat of focus is the most energy-expensive part of your brain. When you are in a state of systemic inflammation caused by a sedentary lifestyle and a high-glucose diet, your brain performs a resource tree. It shuts down high-level functions like deep focus to keep the basic survival systems running. This is what I call metabolic cognitive throttling. Your biology is literally slowing down your consciousness to prevent a system crash. To enter flow, you must first overclock the hardware. You must realize that the boundary between mind and body is a Cartesian illusion. Your gut microbiome, your mitochondrial density, and your autonomic nervous system are the actual processors of your reality. If your hardware substrate is corrupted by the toxic environment of modernity, blue light, constant noise, processed sludge, you are trying to run a quantum algorithm on a calculator. You must treat your attention as a physical substance. It is psychic blood. Every time you switch tasks, every time you check a red dot on your phone, you are hemorrhaging this blood. This leads to attention anemia. You become pale, weak, and incapable of the heavy lifting required to forge a meaningful life. The first step of the jailbreak is a brutal audit of your physical inputs. You do not need motivation. You need voltage. You need to optimize your neurotransmitter baselines. Specifically, the dopamine axis to ensure your brain can maintain the high-frequency state required to dissolve the self. Part 6. The software of chaos. Now, let's talk about the script. Most of your goals are injected directives. They were placed there by your parents, your peers, and the predatory marketing machines that dominate your visual field. You are chasing a success metric that was designed by someone else to profit from your labor. This is the mimetic desire trap. You don't actually want the Porsche. You want the status signal that evolution tells you will lead to better mating opportunities. Flow is the only state that is immune to this trap. Why? Because flow is autotelic. It is a closed-loop system. When you are in flow, the reward is the action. There is no delayed gratification. The gratification is the now. This is a fundamental algorithm correction. You are moving from a linear result. Logic, I work now to be happy later, to a circular process. Logic, the work, is the happiness. But here is the brutal truth. To reach this state, you must embrace optimal pain. The human brain is wired to seek homeostasis, a steady, unchanging state. But growth only occurs in hormesis-controlled, acute stress. Most people flee from discomfort. They seek decognitive ease, of the familiar. But ease is the graveyard of flow. Flow requires information complexity. It requires you to take the random, chaotic data of the world and order it through the lens of a singular, difficult skill. Whether it is coding, surgery, rock climbing, or writing, you are taking entropy, the noise of the universe, and entropy, the signal of the mind, and fusing them. This is the randomness versus sovereignty struggle. The universe is inherently random and indifferent to your suffering. This is cosmic entropy. You have two choices. You can be crushed by the randomness, or you can use it as raw material. The flowmaster looks at a crisis and sees a complexity challenge. The average person looks at a crisis and sees fate. One is an architect, the other is a victim. Part 7. The death of the narrator. The greatest obstacle to your freedom is the person you think you are. We all carry a narrative ego, a mental construct that tells us stories about our past, our limitations, and our identity. This narrator is a parasite. It spends 90% of its time worrying about the future or mourning the past. It is the source of all psychic entropy. In the peak state of flow, this narrator is executed. This is what Eastern philosophy calls no-self, and what neuroscience calls deactivation of the default mode network. When you are fully immersed in a task that stretches your skills to the breaking point, there is no you left to suffer. There is only the action. The dancer becomes the dance. The programmer becomes the code. This is a transient ego, and it is the most addictive, most healing experience a human being can have. It is the only time you are truly free from the genetic scarcity simulation. Why? Because if there is no self, there is no insecurity. If there is no self, there is no fear of death. There is only the eternal present. But the social contract hates this. This system needs you to have a strong, fragile ego. It needs you to be self-conscious, so it can sell you products to fix your perceived flaws. It needs you to be self-important, so you will compete for meaningless titles. To reboot your system, you must practice identity liquidation. You must stop being a noun, a lawyer, a failure, a success, and start being a verb solving, creating, moving. You must move from being to becoming. This is the amor fati, the love of fate. You stop asking the world to be easy. You start asking the world to be meaningful. And meaning is nothing more than the order you impose on chaos through the exercise of your flow. Part 8. The protocols. We do not want inspiration. Inspiration is a chemical spike that evaporates. We want protocols. Hard-coded rules for your daily operation. Tier 1. Hardware tuning the substrate protocol. 1. The dopamine fast. Eliminate all low-effort, high-reward inputs for the first 4 hours of your day. 2. Thermal and kinetic priming. Use cold exposure and high-intensity movement to shock the system. 3. Circadian gating. Identify your peak cortisol window for deep work. Tier 2. Software correction. The algorithmic protocol. 1. The 4-to-1 challenge ratio. The task must be 4% more difficult than your skill level. 2. Immediate feedback loops. Create systems where the world speaks back instantly. 3. They kill the narrator ritual. Perform 2-minute sensory motor grounding before starting. Tier 3. System reboot. The sovereign protocol. 1. Identity liquidation. Discard 1 identity label every evening. 2. The complexity audit. Assess weekly if your life is more integrated or fragmented. 3. The amor fati directive. Use entropy as energy for the next flow cycle. Conclusion. The world is a dissipative structure. Everything is breaking down. Your body, your relationships, your civilization. Entropy is the only law that is never broken. Most people spend their lives trying to build walls against the chaos. They seek security. They seek comfort. They seek safety. But there is no safety in a universe governed by the second law of thermodynamics. The only winning move is to become the engine that turns the chaos into order. Flow is not a luxury. It is the evolutionary mandate. It is the process of the universe becoming self-aware and self-organizing through you. When you are in flow, you are no longer a genetic prisoner. You are a biological architect. You are no longer a program running in error. You are the programmer rewriting the code. The genetic scarcity simulation is still running in the background. The tigers are still there, hidden in the digital brush. The social contract is still waiting to harvest your soul. But you have the protocol. Stop seeking happiness. Start seeking complexity. Stop seeking rest. Start seeking flow. The cage is open. It always has been. You just had to stop looking at the bars and start looking at the gap. Now, go. Dissolve. Become.